Prime Minister, you twice were found guilty of breaking the Ethics Act. After those two convictions, did you decide to read the act?
You got 14 seconds, Prime Minister.
Yes, I have read the act a number of times.
Are you aware of Section 21?
Yes, since I've read the act, I'm aware of Section 21.
What does it say?
No, 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 no.
I can pull it up for you, but if you have it in front of you, you can remind me which
Well, it says a
number that
public
is.
office holder, of which you are one, shall recuse himself or herself from any discussion, decision, debate, or vote in any matter in which, in respect of which he or she would be in a conflict of interest. Now, what you've admitted today is not just that you were in a conflict of interest, but that you consciously recognized in your May cabinet meeting that such a conflict might exist. That it didn't just slide by your desk, that you were consciously aware that there was an inappropriate link to your family that would put you in a conflict.
That is simply not true, Mr. Poilievre. The issue of advancing issues for one's own family. And by the way, the ethics commissioner is looking into this right now, and I fully trust his judgment on determining it. But at the same time, my concern around recusing myself was a question around perceptions, because I knew full well that this Canada Summer Students Grant Program was not going to directly benefit my mother or my brother.
Your 16 seconds are up. Your 16 seconds are up. I'm going to ask you again, because nobody believes you when you say you don't know how much money your family has got from the week. You've had a month to look into that. You knew you were going to testify here. Again, how much money total have your brother, mother, and spouse received from this organization? How much?
That information has been publicly shared, but I will highlight.
Well, then tell me what it is.
My mother
How much?
has
just the dollar figure.
Throughout her life.
The dollar figure, Prime Minister.
Various ways, and is proud
How much?
of the work that she's done, and I'm proud of her.
How
as well.
much? I'm looking for a dollar figure.
We can get that number for you if you like. It's been out in the media.
It's been in the media, but you don't know it?
I don't have it in front of me, and quite
you don't
frankly,
know how much your family has received from this organization, which you tried to give $500 million. Really?
Can I answer, Mr. Poilievre?
I'm waiting. You haven't done an answer so far. Let's make this the first one.
My mother has worked as an advocate.
The dollar figure, Prime Minister.
Speaker for
How much?
many good organizations across the country.
Mr.
Many,
Prime
many
Minister,
years.
you
And
are
she is
you
proud
you are
she
being
doesn't have
asked
to
a
rely
direct
on a
question
husband
at a
or
parliamentary
son to
committee.
support her, because she do not feel that it is
Answer
my
the question.
responsibility to peer into the work my mother is doing, because I have
Point of order to suspend.
that she's doing.
Point of order to suspend.
I've come to learn that the chairperson's power has gone out and is no longer part of this meeting. May I propose that we
It's okay.
suspend
We
for
can
a
we
few
can keep
minutes for
Prime Minister and I
Wayne to,
can continue talking.
No.
I suspected that might be a problem. It's very convenient timing for the lights to go out.
Look, I got a message to the effect that his power has gone out. I have no reason to distrust him.
I hope you don't pull the fire alarm now.
Yeah, well, look, there's no intent in my own private home here in the middle of a pandemic. I don't have a fire alarm. I propose
the general process is that the vice chair assumes the chairing of the meeting. So we'll continue.
And that would be me. So we'll continue the meeting. And I now give the floor to the member for Carleton. Mr. Prime Minister, you have. I'm going to ask you one last time. How much did your family get from this organization? How much?
Have you read the Conflict of Interest Act, Mr.
Yes,
Poilievre?
I have.
How does it define family?
I'm asking you.
How does it define
I'm asking
family?
you how much your family got.
The Conflict of Interest Act defines family as spouse and direct dependents.
Point of
So
order.
you're not going to answer that question.
Point of order.
So you're not going to answer the question then. So you're not going to answer the question about how much your family received. Okay, you're right.
Hold it, gentlemen. If you
for
Mr.
working with we, and it was cleared
Mr.
by
Prime
the ethics
Minister.
commissioner ahead of time.
This is to your spouse. You correctly pointed out that the Act defines family as including a spouse. Therefore, you know you're under investigation regarding the Act. I'm going to ask you again, how much in total, and I'm looking for a dollar figure here, sir, how much did your spouse receive in reimbursed expenses or other benefits from this organization? How much?
Your
Mr. Prime
original
Minister.
question, Mr. Poilievre, was how much was my immediate family?
I asked you a
my
different
family
question now.
paid For,
How much?
the work
Mr.
with me.
Poilievre, the
My
Prime
mother-
Minister has the floor.
My wife has never been paid since I was Prime Minister.
Reimbursed
by
for
we.
expenses.
Mr.
How
Poilievre,
much?
Mr. Poilievre, could we please have order? We'll allow the Prime Minister to answer the question, and then we'll move on to Ms. Zerowitz. Sorry, Julie. Mr. Prime Minister, you have about 30 seconds here.
The ethics commissioner has fully cleared my wife to continue her advocacy and her work with We Charity and other organizations.
How much?
In the kind of work that she's been doing all her life.
Just the
Except
dollar
she's
figure.
doing it unpaid for We. She is not being paid by We for her advocacy or for her podcasts. They are simply reimbursing her
Expenses.
for expenses.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister.
Speaker, this Prime Minister has gone across the country accusing our small businesses, avoiding paying their fair share, attacking them as, quote, wealthy cheats. Mr. Speaker, those are the words of the Prime Minister. Now he wants us to cry crocodile tears for him because people are asking questions about the bills that he's going to have to pay under these proposals. Under the proposal, Mr. Speaker, a small business owner will pay as high as 73% of his passive income, whereas this Prime Minister will pay almost a third less on his public pension. How is that fair?
Honourable Prime Minister.
It's always the question, Mr. Speaker, whether the Conservatives actually believe what they're saying or they just choose to make it up as they go along. Because the numbers that they put forward have absolutely no basis in reality. We are focused on the fact that the system we inherited from Canadians encourages wealthy Canadians to use private corporations to pay lower tax rates than middle-class Canadians, and that's not fair. We are going to fix that because that's what Canadians expect of this government. That's what we're going to stay focused on.
Honourable Member for Carleton.
He has a problem with our numbers. This is a Prime Minister who said he'd raise $3 billion in additional taxes from the wealthy, but just last week his own finance department produced a report showing that revenues from the wealthiest taxpayers actually went down by $1 billion in the first fiscal year. And then a report this week by the Fraser Institute showed that taxes actually went up by $800 for the average middle-class family. Why is everything that should be going down going up, and everything that should be going up going down?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, if the members opposite want to talk about how Canadian families are doing, they need to acknowledge the Canada Child Benefit, which the Fraser Institute completely overlooked. The Canada Child Benefit delivers more money to 9 out of 10 Canadian families, and has been doing so for over a year now. And what it is doing is not only lifting hundreds of thousands of kids out of poverty across this country, reducing child poverty by 40%, it is creating growth in our economy by putting more money in the pockets of the middle-class families who need it. These are the things we're doing that they never did and that they opposed.
The Honourable Member for Carleton. Order.
Mr. Speaker, nobody saw their child care benefit increase more than this Prime Minister, who now has 2 taxpayer-funded nannies, despite the fact that he has a massive multi-million-dollar family fortune. And Mr. Speaker, a small business person earning just $50,000 a year under the proposed plan would pay a tax rate of 60% on his passive income. This Prime Minister would pay 53% on his passive income. How is that fair? Why is a small business person paying so much more than this millionaire Prime Minister?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, you shouldn't be able to stand in this House and just make things up.